Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. The Ming Dynasty was an incredibly powerful period in Chinese history. In its interactions with neighboring nomadic tribes, the dynasty consistently maintained a firm stance. Even in the face of invasions by the Qing cavalry and the capture of Beijing by Li Zicheng, the last emperor of the Ming chose to commit suicide, preserving his personal integrity and dignity. During the reign of Emperor Yongle, Zheng He led large fleets on several voyages to the Western Ocean. This not only brought economic prosperity to the Ming dynasty but also strengthened its diplomatic ties with the outside world. Although Zheng He was a eunuch, he became a renowned historical figure due to his exceptional achievements in navigation. However, one detail from Zheng He's voyages remains puzzling to this day. Why did he bring along women who were in their 50s and older, instead of young, beautiful girls? What hidden significance lies behind this question? According to relevant historians, the scale of Zheng He's fleets during these voyages was immense. Historical records in the Ming Shi, History of the Ming, state that the fleet consisted of more than 300 treasure ships, with the largest ship, the De Fu, having an astonishing displacement of 2,500 tons. These massive ships not only carried Zheng He's diplomatic mission but also showcased the powerful maritime strength of the Ming dynasty. At that time, the propulsion system of ships relied primarily on two methods: wind-powered sails and rowing by sailors. In both aspects, Zheng He's treasure ships were uniquely designed to allow the fleet to sail quickly and steadily. Firstly, unlike the segmented soft sails commonly used on European ships, the Zheng He treasure ships employed a hard sail structure. This hard sail, supported by battens, was heavier and required more effort to raise. However, it could harness wind power more efficiently, significantly increasing the ship's speed. The design of the hard sail allowed the ships to perform optimally in different wind directions, especially in the ever-changing conditions of the sea, where they could quickly adjust the sail's angle to respond flexibly to complex wind patterns. In addition, the mast design of Zheng He's treasure ships was also unique. Unlike many European ships, which had fixed horizontal spars on the mast, Zheng He's ships did not have fixed horizontal spars. This allowed the mast to adjust more flexibly according to the wind direction, ensuring greater stability in the unpredictable marine environment. Beyond the sails and masts, the Zheng He treasure ships also featured innovations in their propulsion system. Both sides and the stern of the ships were equipped with long oars, which were somewhat similar to today's propellers. These long oars extended deep into the water and were operated by multiple people working together, making the ship's propulsion highly efficient. When there was no wind, the long oars helped maintain a steady speed. Due to their design, the oars had a smaller water area, making them suitable for navigating narrow harbors and crowded waters. In addition, the design of the treasure ship, Zheng He Baochuan, was meticulously crafted, as the shape of the ship directly influences its speed and stability. The treasure ship featured a design with a sharp bottom, a wide upper structure, a high bow, and a slightly lower stern. This design provided exceptional stability in rough sea conditions. Notably, the ship's bottom hold used earth and stones as ballast, which further stabilized the ship's center of gravity, allowing it to maintain a steady course on the tumultuous seas. The treasure ship was unrivaled in stability among ships of its time. Furthermore, to further enhance the ship's stability, the treasure ship was equipped with water-breaking timbers and splash boards on both sides of the hull. These boards, facing the ship's sides, effectively reduced the ship's rolling motion during navigation, ensuring a smoother and more stable voyage. According to some experts, the design of the treasure ship was not fixed, but adjusted based on the ship's type and the navigational zones it would operate in. The main dimensions of the ship varied, balancing both speed and stability. Typically, transport ships prioritized stability for long-duration voyages, while warships emphasized speed for quick responses in battle. The hull structure of the treasure ship was particularly unique, featuring multiple transverse bulkheads that divided the interior into several separate compartments. These compartments were sealed off from one another. This design not only strengthened the structural integrity of the ship, but also prevented water from flooding other sections in case of damage, improving the ship's resistance to sinking. Additionally, this compartmentalization facilitated the classification and storage of goods, such as tea, silk, and tribute items from various countries, preventing contamination or mixing. In the 25th year of the Wanli reign of the Ming dynasty, Luo Maodeng wrote a popular novel titled The Eunuchs Sanbao and the Voyage to the West. In the book, he categorized Zheng He's fleet into several types of ships based on their purpose, including treasure ships, grain ships, water ships, horse ships, sitting ships, and warships. In the 1930s, scholars discovered fragments of Zheng He's inscriptions at Zheng He Temple in Xiguan, which classified the ships in the fleet by size. These included treasure ships, 2,000-ton ships, 1,500-ton ships, and 8-oar ships. From this, scholars were able to roughly understand the various roles of these ships. The horse ships were large vessels used for both naval warfare and transport. The grain ships were primarily for transporting food and other logistical supplies. The sitting ships, i.e., warships, were large combat vessels. The warships were used specifically for escorting, and the water ships were designated for storing and transporting fresh water. The design of the largest treasure ships was immense, with the hull divided into 8 layers. To ensure stable navigation, the bottommost hold was filled with large quantities of sand and gravel, known colloquially as the cargo ballast. Experts estimate that the ballast alone weighed around 505 tons. The next 2 layers contain 2 large cargo holds, each 80 meters long, 36 meters wide, and 2 meters high, dedicated to carrying goods and provisions. These 2 layers could also be seen as the supply center throughout the entire voyage. The 4th layer, located just below the deck, had 20 cannon ports along the sides of the ship for defensive purposes. The ship center housed 3,280 square meters of space for 826 soldiers and lower-ranking officers, each with an allocated living space of approximately 4 square meters. Above this was the deck, which was divided into 2 parts, the forward section, which provided living and working space for 108 sailors. The fleet's command center was located in the stern's rudder tower, which consisted of 4 levels. The first floor housed the steersman's control room and the medical officer's clinic. The second floor was the officer's hall, where Zheng He, other mid to senior officers, and foreign diplomats lived and worked. The third floor was dedicated to the temple, where the Mazu and other deities were worshipped, managed by 4 Taoist priests. The top floor was used for command operations, weather observation, and signal communication. The design of the rudder tower allowed crew members and officers to efficiently manage the voyage, responding swiftly to any challenges encountered during the journey. On the deck between the front and rear buildings, in addition to the cannons and sail winches, 2 spaces the size of basketball courts were intentionally left open. These spaces were reserved for the training and activities of the crew and officers to ensure that the crew maintained good physical condition during the long voyage. It is worth mentioning that, in order to ensure the entire fleet could successfully complete the diplomatic mission of the voyage to the Western Oceans, Zheng He and his team made thorough preparations. Considering the living conditions at the time, especially the relatively short life expectancy, with those in their 50s or 60s considered elderly, one might wonder why Zheng He took a group of women in their 50s on the voyage. This question might seem puzzling at first, but it actually stems from a profound consideration. The fundamental reason Zheng He took these women in their 50s on the voyage was to address the most basic survival issue, the food problem. In ancient society, especially during long-distance maritime missions, ensuring a steady food supply was critical. Women in ancient times typically learned household skills from an early age, particularly cooking and sewing. These women's culinary skills and life experiences were especially crucial during the voyage. They not only ensured that the fleet had sufficient food during the long journey but also took care of the daily needs of the crew. In addition to cooking, these women in their 50s were entrusted with another extremely important task, assisting with childbirth. During the voyage, Zheng He discovered that many of the places he visited, especially some primitive tribes, lacked basic knowledge of childbirth. This led to difficulties during labor, and many children did not survive. To help the women in these areas give birth safely, Zheng He specifically selected women with experience in childbirth assistance. Not only could they help the crew, but they could also teach local women some basic midwifery skills, thus reducing the mortality rate associated with childbirth. Through these experienced women, Zheng He's fleet was able to not only impart some life skills to the local tribes but also assist local women through the challenges of childbirth. This silent assistance helped to strengthen the relationship between Zheng He's fleet and the local people, effectively diffusing potential conflicts and misunderstandings. Moreover, there was another very practical reason for Zheng He to take a group of women in their 50s on the voyage: controlling costs. Zheng He's long-distance mission involved various expenses, including ships, supplies, and manpower, all of which required financial support. Compared to young girls, middle-aged women were clearly much less expensive. They had lower wages, and their rich life experience and skills made them especially valuable during the voyage. They could handle everyday tasks and provide effective assistance in emergencies, making them indispensable and capable helpers for the fleet. The third reason is that in ancient times, population was one of the most valuable resources. And young women were particularly important because of their role in reproduction. If young women were unable to return home due to emotional issues during the voyage, it would undoubtedly cause management difficulties. Therefore, bringing a group of older women on the voyage not only made management easier but also helped avoid unnecessary problems, ensuring the smooth progress of Zheng He's mission. From these details, it is clear that Zheng He made thorough considerations and meticulous plans before setting sail. His decisions not only took into account the practical needs of the voyage but also considered how to manage the crew and avoid potential risks. It was precisely this careful arrangement that ensured the success of Zheng He's voyage to the Western Oceans. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.